Legend ZA has a lot of Pokemon that are very difficult to actually accomplish catching in these games, especially due to the mechanics forcing you to actually achieve an accurate aim when it comes to catching your Pokemon. But even among the Pokédex for Legend ZA, there are still 10 Pokemon I would say are the most difficult to actually obtain when it comes to completing your dex. Today, we'll go over some of these more difficult Pokemon to obtain in Legend ZA, and why it makes them so difficult to actually keep in the ball. If there's any Pokemon you felt were difficult to catch that I forgot to mention, feel free to let me know. But otherwise, we have plenty of very challenging Pokemon to go over today. Also, before starting this video, I want to shout out Techno Trainer, Quick Tips, Kibbles Gaming, and Gamer Guru for the footage used in this video. Legit, this footage was extremely helpful, and it pinpointed pretty much all the points I wanted to cover for the most part. So this video wouldn't have been possible without the indirect help of these creators. Please show them support and love. I will leave their links in the description below. Starting off our list, we have the Elemental Monkeys, everyone's least favorite Univin Pokemon. Pansage, Panpour, and Pansear are pretty obnoxious to catch and also to find in these games, despite being Pokemon that honestly nobody should really have any business using to begin with. Most of the other annoying Pokemon to catch actually are strong and offer a reason to be obtained, but these are truly only caught for Pokédex completion. And it's infuriating they even are nearly as difficult to obtain as they are. There are so many people who have played the entire game without finding them, but they are found in plenty of trees across ZA if you're patient enough to reset for them. The best place to find them are the Blue Sector 7 rooftop and the Jean Sector 2 rooftops, as these are where you can find spawns with potentially multiple elemental monkeys just hanging out. But if you aren't intentionally trying to reset for the monkeys, you might either find the wrong one, or just never even notice they're located in Legend ZA to begin with. Hawlucha is unfortunately another very difficult Pokemon to catch in these games, which makes sense given the fact they gave it a new Mega, and it is a single stage Pokemon. But it is still a shame how annoying this can be to find and catch. Your easiest way to get these would be doing the rooftops west of Wild Zone 3, where Hawlucha can be found, but it is a very aggressive mon. Especially given that Hawlucha flies around so quickly on the rooftop, it can be quite a difficult Pokemon to accurately land a hit on to properly get damage off. If you are able to get it damaged though, it should at least be able to stay in the ball, unlike some later entries on this list. But it's still certainly an uphill battle if you're trying to add this to your team. And here's our first pseudo-legendary, Beldum. Beldum is a pretty historically difficult Pokemon to obtain, being notorious for low spawn rates and just also one of the lowest catch rates in all of the franchise. There is an upside to these games though, that you can actually let the Pokemon faint to catch them, which does take away one of the hardest parts about catching a Beldum in any previous installment. That said though, you still do need to worry about making sure Beldum actually stays in the ball, which is a challenge in itself. Beldum having such a low catch rate will still make it a pretty difficult challenge for most trainers, forcing them to have to try and find multiple Beldum to even successfully get their own. But at least they won't continually faint when they attack your team this time. If you want to take on the challenge of catching your own, they're located in Lysander's lab, so feel free to take a stab at adding this powerful Pokemon to your team. Another really difficult pseudo-legendary in Legend ZA is Gumi, which is mostly due to a very particular feature of its encounter. Gumi can only be found when it happens to be rainy, which means you need to be doing bench resets until it does rain. You'll be on a timer for about 5 minutes in real-world time once you do this reset, where you'll need to quickly fly to Blue Pokemon Center and head towards the arch directly next to you on the right. Gumi itself is not exactly the most difficult Pokemon to get to stay in a ball once you encounter it, but it is definitely annoying to even get this spawn in the first place due to rain being incredibly tedious to trigger. You could genuinely be spending quite a while on bench resets just to get the weather to finally start raining, as it is an incredibly rare weather condition in these games. You could genuinely be spending quite a while on bench resets just to get weather to finally start raining, as it is an incredibly rare weather condition in these games, all to add a Gumi to your team. Okay, so I just found out something. This is Mystic from the future. A buddy of mine may have found a guaranteed Gumi spawn in the sewers next to the waterfall TM. Although, from what it seems like, this section isn't accessible during your story trip through here. I just thought I'd throw that out there. Next up, we got Drampa. Your best bet to find a Drampa is going to Wild Zone 19 and going underneath the gazebo during the daytime and hoping that it spawns. It might end up being a Furfro, which just means you need to keep doing resets in order to actually find a Drampa. Be careful with catching Drampa as well, as it is definitely a rather slippery Pokemon that will try to run around quite a bit, making your job of catching it even more difficult. Once you do obtain it, thankfully, you'll at least have one of the coolest new Megas in these games on your team. So while it is a really cool option you can add, it is definitely a very hard Pokemon to get nonetheless. Another mon is Larvitar, which is a rather aggressive Pokemon for such a small little fella. Larvitar spawns on the top of Wild Zone 15 on the rooftop, and you'll find that two spawn together. It's not locked to that area, as it does spawn in a few earlier areas, but this seems like the best place to get it. They do end up being rather aggressive when it comes to fighting your Pokemon, so be careful as they will not hold back when it comes to trying to make you wide out. On top of this, since it is a pseudo-evolution, the catch rate on this is also rather difficult. At least unlike some of our last couple of entries though, the spawn rate is at least fairly manageable on Larvitar in comparison, so we can at least take some solace in the fact you won't have to keep resetting to find a Larvitar here. Just make sure you can survive to actually throw a Pokeball at it. One of the Pokemon I've seen a few people talking about in these games was Eevee. Finding an Eevee seems to be quite the journey, because it's such an annoying Pokemon to have to wait for to spawn. To find an Eevee, you'll need to go near the scaffolding that's in the north section of the map by Wild Zone 18, and Eevee will be at the top if you climb up. The only problem is Eevee proves to actually be a rather difficult Pokemon to obtain, and you'll have to keep resetting if you end up missing your chance to keep it in the ball. Eevee can spawn on specific rooftops during the main game, and in Wild Zone 19. The Wild Zone is a consistent spawn that's also marked on the map, but it's open super far into the late game, allowing the rooftops, if you're willing to seek out those spawns, to give you earlier access to one. Regardless though, I imagine it would take several Eevee encounters when wanting to add more evolutions to your team. We're back to another pseudo-legendary, with Dratini, which I would say is the most annoying pseudo-legendary to catch in these games. Dratini will be very quick to run away, and is the first of our extremely timid mons on this list. Dratini's spawn is on the rooftop by the scaffolding near Jean Sector 1, where it will spawn near an Alpha Flabebe with near certainty. Because of this, you need to defeat the Alpha Flabebe before approaching Dratini, and be very careful to not scare away the Dratini in the process, or you'll end up needing to reset its spawn again. Dratini can take quite a while to get right due to this, but at least unlike some of our other more timid Pokemon today, it is a very oblivious Pokemon when it comes to catching it. That said though, Dratini being a pseudo-legendary will have a difficult catch rate, so just keep that in mind when randomly chucking Pokeballs at it. Skarmory is up second to last, and it actually proves to be a very tedious Pokemon to capture in these games. You'll manage to find a Skarmory in Wild Zone 19, and it is a very obnoxious Pokemon to actually get. Be careful when entering this Wild Zone to stay on the sidewalk so you don't wake up the Pokemon in the dirt mounds, or you'll inevitably wake up the herd of Pyroar that are sleeping near the Skarmory. The Pyroar will make the Skarmory encounter a nightmare, so I recommend encountering the Skarmory at night while they sleep. Make sure you walk past them, and then go to the rooftop to get your Skarmory while being careful of any Lampent you see. The catch rate on Skarmory is also very difficult, especially since the Pyroar can literally hit you while you're on the rooftops significantly above where they're actually standing. Be very cautious with this Skarmory encounter. It is genuinely no joke how terrifying this can be for trainers who are daring enough to get their own. These Pyroar will come prepared for you if you are not. And I would say the most difficult mon to catch in these games is easily Delibird. These Delibirds spawn in Wild Zone 12, and you'll find that 2 spawn in this area among the massive other ice types in the area. If you even manage to knock it out successfully, good luck keeping it in a Pokeball, because this mon is very stubborn to actually stay in the ball. I truly cannot fathom why they made Delibird of all mons so difficult to catch. But my guess is it was so scared of being thrown into battles that it doesn't even want to meet your line of sight. If you somehow manage to catch a Delibird, it's just going right in the box anyway. But it still is scared of just even being caught for some reason, to the point it would just rather despawn within 3 seconds while running away frantically while darting side to side at random. And these are the most difficult Pokemon to actually obtain in Legends ZA. If you manage to catch anything on this list, congrats, you're one of the lucky ones. If you found I missed any Pokemon you guys personally struggled with though, I'd love to know in the comments below what you guys could barely catch. While you're on the way down there, why not consider subbing? I'm uploading tons of other Legends ZA content just like this. And if you watch the video until the end, I'm sure you'll find other videos just like this you'll enjoy on the channel too. But with that said, I'll see you guys next time.